What's going on, y'all? This is episode 97 of the Weekly Wave, and my guest is Devin Z Brooks. Devin is a bassist, recording engineer, light technician, art curator, space designer, and friendly with people, friends, pets, and people. I don't even know what else to say. He's just a beautiful man. So without further ado, Devin Z Brooks. The one, the only Devin Z Brooks. Brother, thank you so much for coming on.
Yo, thank you so much for having me. Matt Waters, I love you, baby.
I love you too, bro. I was trying to figure out the best way to phrase this for a couple weeks leading up. It's like, I think you are the best behind-the-scenes advocate and promoter of everything Cincinnati has to offer. That's
cool, man. I appreciate that. That's, outside looking in.
Yeah. Well, it's a really interesting question to say, can I make the art better by making my space better? And I don't think there's anyone else in the city that's gone to the place that you and Andrew have with trying to enhance every single performance that comes in there.
I super appreciate that entire notion because it really is about holding space for artists and just letting artists be comfortable in the space because you're going to yield better, whatever the product is, whatever the thing is, the art that we're making together. And for us to be either transparent or more forward in like the production techniques. Are we doing a bunch of lighting? Are we doing this or that or whatever? It's going to help make the artist comfortable.
Yeah.
And the audience and everybody involved.
Well, it seems like there's thousands of shows worth of small lessons that you've implied as to what is the workflow of this stage. Even down to the fact that you're currently disassembling and reassembling. It's like, most people wouldn't go through the discomfort of unplugging something that took you 30 plugs to get there. You know what I mean? Like so many days they wouldn't want the problem again.
What's funny about that is it's one of my favorite things. My favorite part of every show is tearing down and putting it away. Because I figure no matter how good the show goes, I've always got that to look forward to. Second best part of every gig is setting it up.
Yeah.
So taking everything apart, like it was up and working. But I spent like 6 hours just unplugging it. And now the entire studio is completely taken apart. It's a giant undertaking. But it's part of it. It's part of the fun. It's part of the evolution of like, okay, I'm going to stop. I'm going to forget everything that I knew. And then remember the parts that I liked.
Yeah.
And then reapply it in a new way.
And it's interesting to be bold in an artistic sense with the logistics, the really minute things about the space. Like,
oh, for sure.
And for any of y'all that don't know what we're talking about, this is Radio Artifact. I mean, how long have you been in that room?
6 years, 5-6 years, something like that. Radio Artifact 2017 established, and we did a whole bunch of work to the room, and like the week that we were ready to be like, hey, everybody, look at what we did. It was like, and shut down. So we had to step back. We were out of the room for a little while. Some transition stuff happened within the overall company. We got separated. We're an oddball out at this point. But it made us reconsider what it is that we do, why we do it. And hybrid events, live recording and broadcast studio, capture studio, hybrid events, because this is the future of the screen, the stage, right? And I was thinking about this, actually. I think this applies. The entire, like, production, all that stuff, all, the magic of it, it's an instrument, right? I think of it like that anyway. And I like to play bass, I like to play music. I like that part. So when I want to do that, the more about all of the other stuff I know, and the better I can do that, it yields good results.
It yields great results, and I think the fact that you are a player and a participant in the music, up to the degree that you are, helps you backtrack through some really intense introspection as far as how does the stage get played? How does the projector get played? How do these small pieces of non-musical implication to the music affect the product at large?
Oh,
and like you said, if someone didn't get the full body visceral experience, you hope that you catch their eye on something like that, and really taking the time to remove yourself physically from the space and try to imagine how they're going to experience it.
For sure.
That's the kind of work that you can't pay somebody enough to do.
No, it's the same thing. I mean, you as an artist, like, it's invaluable to go and watch somebody else play. It's the same way, like, it's invaluable to go to other venues and studios and watch the way other people do things. And it's really helps inform, what do I like, what don't I like, what bothers me, what doesn't bother me, because at the end of the day, it's our taste, it's our sensibilities, and also trying to, fulfill whatever the obligation is that, the contract is.
Yeah.
But if somebody's going to come into the studio, whether they want to do a show or a live recording or a capture, it's okay, how do we make everybody comfortable, make this as easy as possible, so that you don't have to think about it. You don't want to think about, I'm playing a GF major triad, like, I'm not thinking about music like I may have that theoretical knowledge, but I'm not thinking about it like that when I'm playing. The same thing when I'm, like, doing video stuff or whatever. Sure, I'm considerate of ISO and aperture and all the other things that go with it, but when you're just shooting, you're just looking to make the screen look right. Does it look right? Does it sound right? Is it an honest representation of the thing that it is? And how do I say this? We can, there are tuning apps, and so, there's all the plugins and stuff, and there's some digital manipulation that you can do on the back end, but if it's good going in, then it's fine.
Yeah. Well, when you talk about capturing lightning in a bottle, that's what every great producer's always wanted. And one phrase that you've coined in my mind is "life is magic."
Oh yeah.
And you're trying to capture that adequately. And when you talk about your fluency in your battleship, and there's something so comforting about looking to the back corner of the room and seeing the production team smiling, having a good time.
Yeah.
And you and Andrew are, some of the most positive people I know in this scene. I can't tell you how much
we get to do this.
Yeah.
We get to do this. We get to work with you and an entire cast of characters from all kinds of different scenes and, like, backgrounds, and you never know where somebody's coming from or what they've gone through or going through.
Yeah.
And to just be present, caring, and making sure that, well, you're not causing anybody any grief, you know?
And so many people don't realize how to stop in a moment where they're causing grief. Things seem to tumble, especially when you're talking about live productions. It's extremely personal when you're talking about people's catalogs and what the music means to them.
It's their art.
Yeah.
And something that's funny, and I think it's interesting that it gets brought up a lot, is, Andrew and I are always really nice and supportive and all that stuff. And it's like, not like, the grumpy sound guy. And it's like that old trope. But it really can be. It's funny to watch sometimes. You go somewhere and, like, it's like pulling teeth. Like, dude, I just need a DI. Like, where's the problem here?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if this resonates, but why create a problem where there really isn't one? It's, if there is a problem, this is one of my favorite things. If I do have a problem, I reserve the right to stop having that problem. I can just have a different problem. I will just stop having that problem and put whatever my goal was, whatever the thing was I was trying to get it to do. If it's not working, maybe I'm just going to not do that and figure something else out.
Yeah, rather than hitting your head against the wall. I always find that, like, when you lose shit, sometimes the best thing to do when you've lost something is to quit looking for it.
Yeah, it'll come back.
Exactly. Like, it's going to appear in your life. Like, I grew up Catholic. There's the prayer to St. Anthony. It's like, as soon as you say, like, hey, it's out of my control, it's like, well, there's that fucking paperclip I was looking for. Like, damn it, Matt, Like,
I knew I needed it, but it's been staring me right in the face this whole time.
Yeah. Well, I think there's the grumpy sound man trope is something that gets evolved from people having to get stale in their place. And there's something about looking for the next step in quality and in fluency and participation that you and Andrew as a collaborative team have an insatiable itch in the same way that great artists do.
Oh, dude, we're very itchy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So when the ship sets sail, when we're out of port, there's only one way to go, and that's back home at the end. So what's the circle going to entail? There's so much to happen.
Oh, for sure. It's funny that you say boat, because that is the analogy that we've built the studio around. Is legitimately we built it to where it is now, and our constant analogy is like, all right, we built a boat. It is floating. It does consistently work. It only leaks a little, but like it's cool to like putter around or whatever. And now we're building a bigger boat inside our little boat, and we're bringing all the stuff for the new boat onto the boat, building the new boat, and then crossing over onto the new one to disassemble the old boat.
Some wild shit, brother.
What were we doing? We're setting up the network, so we're swapping over all of our audio stuff and putting it on a thing called a Dante network. Anyway, we've got a couple of little 5-port switches, and we plugged one in up at the booth, and we immediately filled all 5 ports. And Andrew says, dude, I think we're going to need a bigger switch. It's like, dude, you're entirely right. We took not a whole lot bigger, but that's where I'm going after this. I got to go get an 8-port switch after this.
Jeez. Well, and watching someone, just to continue with the analogy, watching you go into full creative mode with the projector, it's like watching a dude take his jet ski off the back of that shit and do a couple of laps just for his own enjoyment, just to see some other sides of it, You're truly a maniac, Devin, and that's what we all love about you, brother.
Fucking crazy for me. Come on, let's do the thing. Like, if you're not going to be a madman or a mad person, whatever you want to be, well, do whatever you want.
Mm-hmm.
As long as you're having fun. And I think that's one of the biggest takeaways for me has been, well, am I enjoying doing this?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let me do more of that. When I start not enjoying some aspect of it, same thing. I just stop having that problem and I do something else. And really figuring out where to put your energies, because we've all got the same amount of hours in a day, right?
Mm-hmm.
Except for me, because I like to sleep. I'm a nappy.
Really?
I like to tip my hat to my cats. They're my role models.
I have a hard time with quieting the mind that much at any point in the day. So I respect people that see they need that. Like Michael Jordan was great at taking naps, and it's not like he didn't have a million things on his to-do list. But there's something to be said in that about, the aura of your place of business and yourself as a person is that of someone who's taking care of themselves. Our capacity to care for others begins with our capacity to care for ourselves.
Super important. And I'm glad that we're touching on this, because both Andrew and I go back and forth to make sure, hey, did you eat today? Like, you need to drink some water, blah, 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 go take a nap, like make sure that we're spending time with our significant others. And like that sort of self-care really makes a difference. It makes a huge difference in making sure that the people that we're working with, like, hey, you're stressed out about whatever. And it's okay to talk about stuff. It's important to talk about stuff. It's important to be, allow yourself to be vulnerable enough to say, hey, I'm dealing with something or whatever. Because you just never know what people are dealing with or going through, and making sure that it is for house rules first and foremost. Make sure you're taking care of yourself.
And I think trying new forms of self-care and participating in that. Like, I was talking to my fiance about like the idea of like comfort foods and comfort albums, like places you go just to feel grounded again. And in that alone time, what you do with those things, like maybe you find out at 45 years old that you love getting pedicures. Like, treat yourself every once in a while. Like,
it's important. And as unattainable as it kind of is in this climate of no money, it's because I want to go and have a brunch sometimes. That shouldn't be what I'm beating myself up over.
Yeah.
Taking care of yourself, making sure to take a nap, making sure to like just rest a little bit. Like, that shouldn't, unfortunately, it can be a source of stress for myself, and I'm sure a lot of people.
Yeah.
It's hard to take care of yourself, especially when you've got so much going on. And I don't even know how some people do it. Like, we've got our cats, and I've got a snake, and they're pretty low maintenance. And even that sometimes it's like, what are you guys trying to do to me?
Yeah. Well, and, life is about biting off more than you can chew and then finding out how to chew it and get, don't choke on that bite. Like,
No,
if you chose
swallow
to
with your eyes like a frog. Just blink real hard until it's over.
And it's a special thing to, life is definitely not a sprint. And if it is a sprint, you're going to get to the finish line quicker than most people. And the finish line is not the romantic part of this. It's the things you see along the way, and defining reasons to pick up pace or slow down pace and enjoy that, man.
The adventure is, in my experience, that's where I get most of the enjoyment out of. I've got, and it's so interesting too when you kind of live by a calendar. Like, things are coming up for months, and then next thing you know, it's the day, and then it's going to be over. And what now? The next thing, and then the next thing, and then the next thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's fine, but it can't be the means to the end. There's something else that you got to be looking for, personal things that you're enjoying, things that you're allowing yourself to go through whatever therapy session life is for you, so that at the end of it, you get to be like, all right, cool, that was fine.
Yeah. Did you enjoy the experience at large? Like, I was hanging out with my boy Kyle Hackett the other day, and Kyle told me a quote from a podcast. I adore that dude. Mm-hmm. But I've been shook by the statements. Earn your dopamine. Mm-hmm. Like, indulgence is a hard itch to not scratch in this life. And there's so many things that are quick resources of that little bit of pleasure. But, like, some of the best part of life is the discomfort before that big rush of, we have done this.
Right.
And being willing to offset those things wisely. Why do you have goals for this year and for 5 years and for 10 years? It's like, it's because you can't touch 10 until 10 is surpassed. There needs to be many different moments of appreciating that journey and quantifying it.
Being able to enjoy the intervallic dissonance between 2 points when it does resolve. That's what life is for me anyway, because life is hard, dude.
Yeah.
Life is rough. It is not an easy thing. There is an enormous amount of man, I wish it wasn't like that. Mm-hmm. If I had the magic snapper, it wouldn't be a problem.
Yeah.
But being able to take problems and just, you don't want to ignore the problem, but to reframe it so it's not that kind of problem.
Mm-hmm. What you're just saying about intervallic distance and the way it resolves is just a straight mind explosion for me.
Oh, I love that kind of stuff.
1 second. Yeah? Yeah. Pause for 1 moment.
Yeah. Pause the set.
Just leave everything rolling for the time being.
Hey, I'm glad you're here, man.
Yeah, no, I come from a live production perspective. I do live sports, so
okay.
I'm a handheld camera guy. And
very cool.
I love everything inside the booth except for the audio room. So.
No, fair enough. It's a super cool thing, man.
As soon as you mentioned Dante, I was like, fuck, now I really need to go back and do my lessons and actually go learn the software.
We're learning it.
Yeah.
What do you do? You just bumble into it in Google until you figure it out.
There's one specific resource that I was led to, and if I get the link to it or whatever it might be, I'll let you know.
Oh yeah.
But it's a 3-part training series for free.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all we use in live production now is that Dante system.
Oh yeah.
It's the most fascinating thing in the world to me.
No, it's the answer.
I wanted to pick up at a place where what I see you doing with Radio Artifact is a business unlike many. And it's very difficult to talk about the capital involved, the spatial constraints that come along with that, and also just the sustainability of that business.
Yes.
I think if the world of musicians and content creators was fortunate, you'd have one of these in every part of the city.
For sure, and one in every city was the goal.
Yeah, and because of factors that none of us think about except the guys doing it, I would love to hear what you would say are steps towards sustainability for something that is going to be a real cornerstone for Cincinnati.
No, I appreciate the framing of this like question or prompt because this is something that we put an awful lot of thought and kind of care into as far as like the sustainability of it. Straight up, I want to say yes to everything. Like friends hit me up all the time and we get a flood of requests like, hey, I want to come do a show. I want to come do a show. Let me come do a show. It's like, that's cool, but it's not, even at like $10 a ticket, like we've got a 120 cap room, it's not viable. We will we will go bankrupt. We can't sustain that. It's not a thing. As much as we like to do that, but being a live recording and broadcast studio / capture studio, the way you utilized it was exactly brilliant. That's totally what we're pointing towards, is a multimedia live capture distribution. We're also a record label and a radio station. Being able to fill our calendar with bands coming in, and we've had bands from all over the country come in and do different little sessions, where basically that is the agreement is, hey, you come in, we'll track everything, we'll do 5-6 live camera angles, we'll do a program live mix that is at the push of a button live streamable. Here's our live mix, here's all of that content, and at the end of the show we hand it all over to the artist and say, okay, cool, you can go mix it until your heart's desired, everything's cool, bring it back to us, we can do the release. Or you can do whatever you want with it, because at that point it's yours. That becomes much more attainable for us. And also renting out the room for hybrid events, for different businesses that want to have team building exercises, things like that, things where they've got, they're spread out across multiple cities, so you can have this business come here and then the other folks can zoom in. It becomes, this is our stage, this is our screen, and whether it's this way or this way, you know, both have to be viable.
Isn't that a shitstorm to be like, we had things so nice for landscape and now everyone watches shit portrait? Like, why?
Yeah, but that is something that with the new iteration is we're going to have 2 to 3 program outputs all happening simultaneously. So we have widescreen cinematic, here's your TikTok or whatever, and also here's our one that shuts down after 15 minutes and says, go to our Patreon, go to radioartifact.com to watch the real thing.
Yeah. Well, it's a relief to hear that there are businesses coming in and utilizing the space and adequately paying for the space, because when it comes to artists, artists are the bottom feeders of financial means. I mean, everyone here is already stretched thin, and you can't ask the typical rate of those people if you want to have a certain quality of artists. Like, it's a very sticky situation. And one thing that I run into is, like, there's also a question of ownership and who has long-term ROI on this. What I loved about the situation was, I don't need Radio Artifact to be a collections agency.
Right.
Because I know I will collect by whatever means I distribute. But to put that weight on y'all is the same reason that, like, the person that calls you from the hospital asking you to pay your bill doesn't sound like the happiest motherfucker on the planet, you know?
Totally fair.
And it's one of those things that when I look at my friends that are putting on an amazing thing, I can separate you as a friend from you as a business to some extent.
Same, yeah.
I am infuriated when I realize that y'all are doing the front and the back end work on trying to keep this shit afloat, when if people came in and adequately paid for the space at whatever they can, we would all see the quality jumps and the cultural jumps that come along with that. But we can't ask you to play daddy and all these things, you know?
A term that I have coined here is something that I was thinking about recently, is the idea of, like, well, you know, if we had like Papa Fuck Dollar just fucking money into the thing, then it's whatever. You can do whatever you want at that point, but we don't have that, unfortunately. So it is the give and take and trying to meet people where they're at with, again, I want to say yes to everything because that's just my nature. Yes, I would love to have your party or whatever, and just do my thing. But then it's really easy to overbook and overwork yourself into destitution. And we're trying to be very careful not to do that. But at the same time, to be able to offer a couple of different tiers of, okay, here's band X that's going to come in and they can't really afford like the rate, but okay, cool. We'll meet you halfway. Here's a ticket split. Here's a couple of different ways that we can make this work and make this tenable so that you get a cool thing, we get a cool thing. And the other part of being a record label and a production company is, okay, we'll invest. We're sharing risk. The entire business is risk, right? And the classic model is, okay, promoter has $5,000 or whatever they're playing with to book the venue, pay for sound and audio, lighting or whatever the production is, and pay for the band, and then they recoup tickets and alcohol sales or whatever. Currently, we're separate. We're a separate entity entirely.
Yeah, so no bar sales are affecting. It's just a mutual handshake of here's business we brought to you.
Right.
This is our space.
And being able to work with artists on, okay, cool. Sign to the label. We're going to release this as a live album. We're putting work into it. It's a shared risk, but it's not costing you $1,200 or $2,400, $3,600 up front, because that will with the idea that in 30 years maybe we'll make that back on streaming or what, which the streaming and all that stuff is its own entire conversation.
And that's one of the reasons I want to bring this up to you, because when I talk to other folks about your space and the way that our situation worked out, like again, when I came in and asked a favor of you and Andrew to lend me this space, and you showed me the tiers that will work out and the best way of doing it. And the thing that I really didn't want to miss out on is the incentive to make myself future monies while also paying people what they're worth in the short term. Because say you only own 50% of the publishing on a song or 50% of your copyright. You are 50% less inclined to push on that than you are what you own 100% of.
For sure.
And people don't realize that the short-term cost versus the infinitely monetizable piece of content, if you can set yourself up for a situation that is successful, will benefit everybody at large.
Oh, for sure.
But when we're talking about you who, say over the last 3 years of everything you've done at Radio Artifact, you have a 30% stake or more in collecting on. It's like that's 10 people's jobs in and of itself. And this is two brilliant people that are working on the live production so much that the collection side of it, can't be at the forefront, or else people get bitter. People get in a bad sitch.
It's an interesting thing, creating IP, digital IP with people, because it then is okay, cool. We're in a longer term business situation that, and again, I appreciate the notion of like being friends and also in business with people. Like they're not mutually exclusive. They can both happen simultaneously. And it's for us for sure. And part of the sustainability and the tenability of actually doing what we're doing is, okay, let's do the live thing. The show happened. That transaction is done. And now we have however long that now we've got this digital IP that is working 24/7. It is always there. People can always find it. It's super accessible. It comes right back to this. Like, if it isn't this,
then it's come and gone.
It's come and gone. And I don't. And this occurred to me some years ago when I was playing in a metal band, and some different bands, that we would go play a show. Everything's cool, whatever. And it just occurred to me more and more that it's not to call it, it's not a waste of time, but we didn't capture it in a way that I can still share it and relive that and so on. We did a couple of shows where we did that, and it was like, yeah, I like that. Yeah, how do I do that more? How do I not work so hard? Because it's so much work. to go out and do a show and to organize a band and, you know, the whole thing that goes with it, it's so much work that it just it burns me out. Like, to go and try and just do a bunch of shows without having the collection thing that's, you know, we're skimming, we're seining, that you know, we're seining
looking for
content.
gold, yeah.
And that's it. Capture lightning in a bottle. There it is. And now everybody can watch it.
Yeah. Well, it creates a very interesting question of, like, there's shows leading up to a big performance at Radio Artifact, whatever your capture date is. How do you let something that is the lightning in a bottle get retained? It's like you have to be so tight on your own reflection period that you can try to recreate those things. And I talked to a lot of folks about there's a difference in our current generation that's growing up than the generations that came before, where entertainment in the household meant someone needed to play the piano. So everyone took a crack at playing to find out who would be best. And your one crack at playing, even if you found out you're atrocious, was the light bulb to make you appreciate someone who does things well. So as someone that spent many frustrated nights looking at corrupted files, trying to figure out why
is this a problem?
Yeah, why didn't my session track? Why didn't I get that show or this moment? That's where everything changes when you find someone like yourself who says, I'm going to make a niche product here, hoping that people see the true value in it. Because it is absurdly valuable. It's infinitely monetizable.
I hope so.
It's that's you know why I sing your praises as much as I try to, and why I really wanted to have you on here today, because you do something so special in that, brother.
I love that. Thank you.
Absolutely, man. And again, that's why you're a behind the scenes advocate for what's going on here. So it's important that this community that loves and appreciates you doesn't let you starve in the meantime. And more important than that, gift people the financial freedom to do what they do best in this life. You know, everyone in this city knows that if we gave Devin $1 million, probably half of that would go into the space. The other quarter would
go back into it.
Yeah, or it's go to the cats, which I'm fine with it going to the cats.
You know,
it's like
cats got to get a little something. But,
cats should get wet food every single day as long as your daddy's living a luxurious lifestyle.
No, that would be nice.
Pinky rings on both hands and both feet. You know what I'm saying, dog?
Yeah, that one just...
Exactly. So when you're riding your motorcycle, you have to do it with some kind of a sandal gear so people can be like, this guy's blanged out. But we're not there yet, so someone needs to pay this fucking man. You know what I mean?
And trying to bring in money to help sustain the thing, which is another aspect of what we're looking to do, is to have sponsorships, advertisement coming in so that we can implement. And I'll be honest with you, we've been super quiet for a little while, and we kind of just blacked out the studio for the last like 2-3 weeks while we're making these changes and so on. But booking and setting up the calendar and releases and all that kind of stuff so that we have a consistent amount of, hey, who can we get to help promote and sponsor these events to help absorb some of that financial burden, while also singing the praise of whatever your product is. You know, whatever your thing is that you're helping sponsor the thing. Yeah. Suddenly you're now front and center of why we get to do this.
Yeah. Cashing in on that visibility is a big thing that, like, you know, it's easier when you have people that just look at your product from the outside trying to offer ideas for how to do things better. But it's another thing to say, like, what do we have the manpower to do right now? And one thing that I would beg of artists that are coming to y'all and getting an opportunity to walk out with such great product is let it be out of your hands once you walk out of the space, because you've done so much already. And there's so much more to capture and work at, rather than setting up the release date, doing the mix down, doing all those things where you already did it once, but the time put into doing it again is insurmountable. Because we're artists, we like to be particular about things.
Oh, it's for sure. You can mix for years.
Exactly. So someone's going to call Andrew back and say, hey, could you remix this song or this part of the album? And it's like, hey, this is the third time he's mixed that. The first time was live. The second time was this. And now you have edits. And it's like, we're asking the workload of the wrong people when the work's already been done there. And what I love about businesses using the space is y'all are doing us, again, a favor of trying to monetize time outside of when we could be using it. You know, the daytime hours, the weekday hours. so that this business can sustain for years to come and do what it's meant to do.
We hope and are doing what we can, thanking our lucky stars that we're still here, we're still going. Thankfully, we've been in we've set ourselves up in a way that it's not costing us a ton to keep the ship afloat, but it still costs something. It still costs. Like it's not a free adventure by any stretch of the imagination. It's an expensive adventure,
especially when you take on the challenge of we want a better projection setup. We want better capture. It's like, part of the love for musicians and people in this field is what the equipment will allow you to do, that your imagination has been telling you, do it. You know what I mean?
But without being a gear snob about it, like that's always kind of been in my mind is I don't really care what the thing is as long as it's capturing an honest recording, or being transparent, or if it's coloring it, like it's coloring it in a particular way, or there's a reason for why it looks like this or sounds like that or whatever. But utilizing the space and our time and energies in a way that is, again, just sustainable, to be a live recording and broadcast studio, to be a capture studio for, if I'm in a band and I come across a place that I can go to it and pay a fraction of what I would pay, like a team of videographers and like audio engineer and all the things that go along with that. How much does it cost to make an album? What, 10 grand, 12, like to go and do it in a studio? And then if you're also doing all the back end and all the production, like it's an expensive endeavor. But for me to show up with my band and do something, I don't have a band right now, but
that's because you put so much time into this place.
Yeah, because I'm working on this thing. I want this to be cool so that when I do, I could just step into it and it just works.
Yeah, but someone like myself, where I stewed over these songs for years, and the proposition of recording them is expensive and time-inducing. I spent less than $2,000 to record 14 songs I love for a live studio audience that paid to be there, that had ample facilities, beverages, and things like that. It's absurd.
Oh, for sure. It's the ends. It pays for it, like selling tickets to something. You sell it out, and you basically just got a live album for almost free.
Yeah, and you have to see that opportunity is like, okay, so now the goal is just to sell tickets and kick ass. Like, how much easier could life be? Because again, you're gonna make future monies, but providing quality experience is what we're all here at the base of.
Oh, for sure.
And to inspire people the way we've been inspired. And I kind of have a two-part question for you here.
Okay, go on.
With what you're doing, who do you benchmark against? Who are the places doing something similar to Radio Artifact that you look at as inspiration, competition, just a friendly breed of, I see that, I'm going to do this?
There's a bunch of them, the Boiler Room Sessions, that sort of thing. There's a few different ones that we look at and say, we see how they're doing it. That's cool. We like this. Maybe we wouldn't do it like that or whatever. What's the KEXP, those sessions? What's the other place?
Tiny Desk?
Tiny Desk for sure, and we've done a bunch of those. Because it's
the submission. It's submission time right now, man.
Yeah. Having artists come in, we're open for submissions. That's a thing we do. Super easy. What's the other one? It's the live at. Oh, see, this is the thing. This is my paperclip. I don't remember anything. I'm like a little goldfish. Legitimately, I don't know anything, and you can't prove it. That's. Anyway, so we're looking at stuff like that, but we're also looking at, I go to, sometimes I would go to Chicago, or I've got friends down in Nashville, and I'll go and just look at what those setups look like, and how does this translate to what we're doing, and how does that interface with the bands, how does that interface with artists, and, other studios that are around. I'll get a shout out to the Tone Shop, Eric Kronstein and those guys. They've got a wonderful studio, super cool, like really nice studio. It's a different thing, so I feel good about saying nice things about them. because we're sharing kind of the same, what do you call it, pool or whatever, but it's a different take. It's a different product. And the same thing with these different venues. I like to say nice things about Motor. I like to say nice things about the Woodward Theater. I like to say nice things about Southgate House Revival. And I appreciate all these places where bands can go and hone, and we're a different thing.
Yeah.
It's, sure, we can facilitate that, but it's not tenable for us in the same way to sustain as a business, which is why we're leaning really hard into live recording and broadcast capture studio. So you can get rehearsed, be tight. Got to be tight.
Yeah.
It's super,
can't fix the real thing.
No, if it ain't tight, if you're playing out of tune and off time, that's what it is.
Yeah.
Here's an honest thing. I took a picture. That's what you look like, and you're like, yeah, but
well, and there's there's an odd appeal in the current world we live in to doctor up the real thing. Whether it's your Snapchat filter, it's your auto tune. There's something really specific about the way that your space goes down. But within everything you just said there, what I assumed and what I kind of conclude from that is there is no one doing what Radio Artifact is. Not just in the city, but I'd say in general. There's not many live rooms with these kind of sessions. And I would love to hear you speak to the joys of this, because I think what makes a product like yours better is people that compete with that product. People that want to do the same thing and have different aha moments than you, because it is very much the future. It is how you get onto those screens.
It's this.
It's how you take someone out of their bedroom looking at their phone at 11:30 a.m. and get them to the club by 12:15, because this show runs till 1 a.m.
Or 8 p.m. start, doors at 7:30, show starts at 8. By 8 p.m., I like to call it boo o'clock. By Bob o'clock, 8:08, we're full send, it's on.
Yeah.
I think that's a good question and proposition. Is I haven't seen anybody else doing it quite the way that we're doing it, and for why we're doing it the way that we're doing it. It's probably one of the closest things is Monster Piece Theater, what Jason Betch does, and Chris and the gang. They make a really solid product. Like, Jason's a fantastic production engineer. They're local. If you haven't checked them out, check out Monster Piece Theater. I love what they do, because that's the idea of making it as easy as possible for a band to come in, not worry about it, and it's just good. Like that's I to the previous question, same thing. Tip of the hat to anybody doing stuff like that, because a lot of folks are trying to do live recording and live streaming and so on, but it's hard. It's not an easy thing. We had never done it before, not really, but the shutdown happened, and we had to pivot, figure something else out, and we enjoy learning stuff. So it was just, okay, well, how does streaming work? How do I facilitate this? How do cameras work? How does that work? How lighting? I didn't know anything really. Like, I knew a little bit about lighting, but that was a steep learning curve.
And you crushed at that. It's like, we came in 24 hours before our show, ran a little bit of it. You programmed in what you felt was necessary.
You had whatever request, and you fill it.
And then you have an artist behind the board that's interacting with those things. And it's, when we're talking about art, great art has many dimensions of enjoyment. Whether it goes from, I love the hook, then I love the chorus, then I love the bridge, and then I love the B track that I didn't listen to on the album until I loved this enough. So when you're talking about getting people to multidimensional, wonderful art, you need different points of access. How did I fall face first into this? Did I walk through the confessional doors at Artifact, or was I scrolling on YouTube and I saw there's a live stream right now in Cincinnati, Ohio, and bam, I got tickets for a show 3 months from now because it looks like a hell of a good time.
As you said that, I had a thought that I'm not sure if I've thought about it like this before, but that interest in art is entirely hierarchical, hierarchy and subjective to the person. There's whatever the thing is that initially catches your eye or ear or whatever sense. And then if you like it, you dig a little deeper, and then you find things that turn you on or turn you off or whatever.
That's brilliant.
And I think being able to offer a product like what we do is there's a lot of different sensory information that obviously the idea is to sell a thing. Like it's a business. Like you want a hook. You need something that's going to make people say, I want that. I like what they did. I want one of those for me. And to make it super easy to come in and get you one.
Yeah. Well, and it's, again, when you talk about sales in the world of art, it starts to skew where the joy is in that. And it's
for sure.
It is so clearly a joyful experience for you to do this. Like, what's been the most fulfilling day on the job?
Oh, that's a good question. Most of them. Yeah.
This is why we love you, Dev.
Yeah,
Tell me the truth, goddammit.
Yeah, no, legit. Like, I really enjoy getting to do this kind of stuff or whatever the thing is I get to do, because in whatever, as long as you're being present and being honest with yourself, and especially if you can do what you like to do as a job, then what's the problem?
Yeah.
Like, but again, and we were talking about this earlier, is it's easy to overbook yourself and oversaturate and surpass your own personal threshold. Sometimes you don't even know when or what that's going to be. Because, I can't speak for anybody else, but I'm an emotional dude. I'm very, I feel things very strongly one way or the other. I'm really very chill and calm on the outside because it makes it easier for everybody involved. Mm-hmm. But it's important to know that people have emotions, and that's, I think, a big point to this entire conversation is this entire thing is a human in business. It's a human interaction. It's a relationship with the artist and the art and the audience and everybody that's involved in that. Like, we're sharing time, we're sharing energy, we're sharing space, and being conscientious of that somebody spent a lot of time and energy writing whatever the song is, putting their band together, doing their branding and all this stuff. And we have to be caring and conscientious of how we treat what we get to do, because it's again, holding space. I do think about what our interaction is. We're contributing to the art, sometimes transparently, sometimes we're coloring it, sometimes we're doing this or that or whatever to it. But it's somebody's art that we get to have okay, and got it. All right. Here you go.
Yeah.
It's a human thing that we're talking to robots and trying to get them to not lose the humanity of what's going on.
Yeah. Well, and you only get that when someone has spoken to the machine in that way and gotten to know it. It's like that's a really humbling part of the relationship, is that in the world of guitar players, for the most part, it's been standard tuning, 6 strings. And like there's variants outside of that, but getting to know a fretboard is a pursuit that's going to stay approachable versus when you learn a Dante. You learn, your old DMX program with certain things like that. It really does take a special mindset to be that good at learning something. And one thing I really realized when you were just speaking of that is like, y'all play the experience the way that Nick plays the drums. And when you perceive it through a screen like that, you don't think about the guy that's on the other end making sure that that's great.
But there is. Yeah.
And if you find out through a moment like this, getting to hear the personality behind that, it's like, I think when people come to podcasts, they want to find people that feel resonant and inspiring, and folks that they admire and want to be more like. And as someone that's watched you and gotten to have really poignant and beautiful conversations with you.
I love you.
Yeah, I admire you so much in that, Devin. And I can't tell you how much these painstaking hours and your ability to be resilient and even keel in the face of disaster or pure bliss is something that we couldn't pay you enough emotionally, financially. We could probably get you some more bikes, but you can only ride one bike at a time unless you're doing some crazy shit.
Yeah, no, that's true. And
I'd love to see you ride 2 bikes at once, Dev.
I will try. I will wear both helmets.
So when you step out the studio, when it's just you time, where are you going?
Ideally, wherever I want. Preferably, I enjoy spending time at home. I like going outside. I like doing stuff. Whether I'm going to go kayak or ride my motorcycle or ride a bicycle or just kind of enjoy being still and not doing anything is a really enjoyable activity for me.
Yeah. I like how you took the seat of wisdom when you did that too. Like,
yeah, it's just,
that's one of those.
That's
a yogic thing that's really messed with my head over time. It's like, go through 45 minutes of strenuous exercise. Then at the end, we want you to sit there and lock into the sensation of your fingertip touching your thumb. And this is a weird thing that you probably relate to as a player. Sometimes you play like such a brute because you just want to feel it. You want it to be so visceral.
Oh, for sure.
But to hold down that string and get the sound you wanted, it only took this versus that. So realizing to be a little more light-handed in life.
I think it's a really good point, and this is something I think about a lot, especially coming into the studio. Like, pro tip, whether you're coming into our studio or wherever you're going to play, if you're cranked to 11, suddenly there's no room. You're taking up all the room. You're playing all the notes. You're taking up all the space. You're playing too hard. It's easy to overdo it because you haven't gauged yourself to learn how to play quietly, especially as an ensemble. And you already know, drummers, some of them hit really hard and they're just going to do that. Some of them they just have that, they get the tone without hitting it so hard that it sucks the life out of it.
Yeah.
And I think that same thing applies to just about anything. If you can, a thing I thought a long time ago is just gently guide your nature. Allow yourself to be who you are and do what you do, but guide it gently. You don't have to be so forceful about how you're treating yourself or others. And it's the same thing that I kind of think about, just aggressive people or people that are just really loud. Sometimes people are just like that. But there's a lot that can be said without needing to be forceful or aggressive. If I've got to say something, I'll tell you it because we're adult people. We're going to have if we need to have a conversation, we can have a conversation, but it doesn't need to be name calling or who can get the loudest or the posturing and all that stuff. I've always found that interesting, watching guitar players kind of or different genres of folks try and one up each other or whatever the thing is, and then also watching myself and my community of bass players just be like, you play bass, that's cool, man.
That's enough.
Yeah,
but
that's fine.
It's an interesting thing too when you talk about positions in bands. Like in the world of jazz, I'd say not the most arrogant, but the most adamant is normally the bass player. Versus if you look at the world of jam bands, it's that's the guy that probably doesn't talk. Literally doesn't talk. You know what I mean?
You don't say anything. You just do hold down the groove, hit the pocket, and get down.
Yeah. Well, and if you look, if you take the time to sit in your own stillness, to settle, you'll find so much more information about, like you said, guiding who you are, patiently, respectfully through this life is far better than forcing yourself through every door that you want to go through. Because you just bang into a closed door every once in a while, and that hurts. Versus if you check the knob and said, that's not my door today,
Just knock on the door. You ring the doorbell, see if anybody's home. They might let you in. Sometimes all you got to do is ask. And that goes so far in just the human experience. And just to be a person is art in and of itself, I think.
Yeah.
It's, we all have the things that we go through and the lessons that we've learned, difficult or not. And just being able to be gentle, supportive, and when you run into a problem, stop having that problem and figure out the answer to a different problem that solves that problem and just go around it. It's fine.
Mm. When you were at the inception of working with Radio Artifact, did you ask for that? Or did you step or fall into this situation?
This has been an evolution. So, backstory, story time.
Woo!
So, long story short, when I was 12, 13, that was kind of the inception of like, okay, I want to be a rock star. And, I was looking at Kiss and Black Sabbath and Alice Cooper and that sort of like thing. I said, all right, well, what do they do? And when I got to go see Kiss on the Psycho Circus tour. My mom was super cool and took us to see, I was in like 5th grade. And say whatever you want about Kiss, I don't care. I like it. So it was years later that I realized it was the production that had a huge impact on me. And obviously playing in bands and doing all kinds of stuff like that and coming at it from that angle. When I was about 18, I got a little PA system so I could rehearse with my band. Friends found out I had it, and then we started doing little shows with it, park shows and so on. So I had to actually learn about it. And then it's just snowballed over the years to, okay, I hit my personal glass ceiling of as much gear as I could fit in my little van and trailer and go out and show up and do these shows that I quickly learned, all right, well, this is a 14-hour day and I made $150 and it took an awful lot of time and energy to do this. It's not really panning out. And, I don't want to seem capitalistically motivated entirely, but there is the diminishing returns. And you got to be conscious of that. Like,
especially in that equipment where not only does PA get outdated every 2 years, but the wear and tear, it's like there's no resale value in it.
Yeah, no, it breaks. Like, as soon as you bought it, it's immediately worth 1/10 of what you just paid for it. And it's really just snowballed. I was lucky enough to get kind of an internship over at 20th Century Theater with Mark Santangelo. And I learned a lot just by, like, showing up. I didn't go to school for any of this stuff. And, between him and anybody that I can see who's doing good, if I can pick their brain and be friends with them, Nick Urdina's incredible production guy.
One of the greats.
And he's so super cool and chill. And a thing that I got from Mark is to a couple of things real quick as to why I am like this. I want to be a rock star. Okay, what does that entail? I don't know. Figure it out. Just be a madman and just do your thing. What is the difference? Why can you do a rock show and a metal show and then a country show and then a folk show and then a hip hop show and then what are how do you think about these things? And Mark said to me, well, you're thinking about it all wrong. It's all theater. It's all basically the same thing. And then that same idea is reinforced by Nick. I went to one of Nick Urdina's sound classes, and the point of it was, look, it doesn't matter really what the gear is. I need to know where the gain knob is. I need to know where the EQ is. How do I route things? How, where's the compressor? Where's the EQ? That kind of basic stuff. There's an on button, and then it's the same idea as playing music. Okay, I know how a chord's constructed, 1 3 5. I know how a minor chord, 1 flat 3 5, or all that kind of stuff. It's really simple fundamentals that if you just take the time to try and understand that, it really it clears the smoke. It clears I don't know where to start. Like, anybody wanting to get into live audio or play a guitar or whatever the thing is, you have to show up and practice for yourself because you want to, and you want to put in the time, because Matt, you didn't get super good by not practicing. Like, there's an aptitude, but then you got to put in the time and the energy and the work.
Mm-hmm.
You know, lighting was a huge learning curve. Like I had a fundamental understanding of how it worked, like a DMX 512 protocol. And, you know, I used a couple little light boards, a Chauvet 40 or whatever, that kind of stuff. But as soon as I started getting into trying to wrap my head around Kamsys Magic Q or Avalites or Grand MA or Hog or what, you know, whatever else, it's like, I don't even know how to think about this. And at that point, you look around and say, well, there's a class or whatever I can look at over there. And then you just try things. I didn't know what compression sounded like. I didn't even know how to think about it. I just turned it up all the way.
Found out.
Yeah. Fuck around and find out. Fuck around and find out.
Wait, compression's such a weird thing because, like, anything on the musical front, like, it's invisible, you know?
Oh, dude, this is one of my favorite things. I'm sure we're running out of time or whatever, but real quick, music itself is intangible. We're dealing with a product that is not a thing. Like, you can't, you know, I can manipulate a microphone. We've got tools that we have to interact with, but it's the same how you apply that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, do I need a $12,000 guitar, or do I just need a guitar that's reasonably well taken care of and set up? Like, there is some amount of, you got to set yourself up for it to be good.
Yeah.
But being open to trying things, and it's not about failure so much as it is, well, that didn't work, so let's try something else.
Yeah, like reinventing it for yourself. I think you're someone in this life that's very clearly taken tools in, then learned everything they can do.
Or as much as I needed to do, and then I'm fine with it.
Yeah, but just getting in and letting these things utilize your imagination, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and never ceasing to imagine something new that they could do and ask that of it. Like, when I think
Right.
of one of my favorite things in the world right now is, as many times I've looked at an EQ, I'm just now realizing, like, 0 to 20K is all you and I get, but there's infinite on both sides of this.
Mm-hmm.
And in life, that is what you feel, that is not what you see. And, like, you just think of all the things outside of our visual spectrum or our sensory spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
And you realize that life, as you've said many times, is magic.
Life is magic if you want it to be. If you want to believe that direction, I'm not. How would I say? I'm not tied to any religious organization. Like, that's.
You have a small cult. We know.
Yeah, we do pray to the altar of rock and roll. Woo! When you come through the confessional doors, that is what's going on here. Because our boom stand for the drums, it's long story short, it's a Matthews brand grip stand, and it's a industry standard, like, video photography kind of thing. And it's a stand that comes up, and it's got a little, like, arm, and it holds it on there. So I didn't like it just being like the stand, so I put, like, a cloak on it, and then I stood back, and it was like, holy shit, that's death. Like, it looks like death.
That is grim.
It is the Grim Reaper. And ultimately, huge point, that's where we're all going. We're not no one here gets out alive. That's a real thing. And knowing that we're making art for humans, for the human senses, but being aware that there's more beyond that.
Mm-hmm.
How can we smear ourselves across time in a way that's beneficial to not only ourselves, but so that when we leave the flower grove, there are not a bunch of dead flowers. There is potentially more flowers, or we were at least, like, gentle with them while we're in there. Like, don't step on the flowers.
Yeah. Well, I would like to hear you plug some of your channels and places to go, but before that, again, I think you are the greatest advocate for what's going on in our music community, and what you do has pushed the culture in a way that it's not going to be until you're gone that we truly realize the magnitude of that, brother. So thank you for all you do.
No, right back at you. I sincerely appreciate that. Like, when you called me initially to do that recording session, the Big Crash live album recording,
Bang bang.
super cool. Love it. If you haven't checked it out, super cool. I already knew your name. Like, your reputation precedes you in a way that when my phone rang and I was like, oh shit, okay, hey, and it's you. I was like, what's up, dude? Like, we'd never really interacted before. We knew a lot of the same people, but that's been a reoccurring experience of getting to work with people that their reputation precedes them because they do good and you can tell they care. And thank you for that, for doing this, like what you do to contribute to the music scene, and for letting me come on and, peddle my wares, on the channel here, because it's art, it's people, it's a human experience.
Yeah. So where's the best place to keep up with Radio Artifact and yourself?
RadioArtifact.com. That's really the source for pretty much all things Radio Artifact. RadioArtifact.com. You can also check us out if you want to hear the radio station, 91.7 WVXU HD2 or RadioArtifact.com. Streams there. We're on YouTube, Patreon, super vital, very important. We would like to get to a point to where it's sustaining through that. Brought to you by viewers like you. That whole thing.
The ultimate sponsor is the consumer if they treat the product like what it is. It's worth it, man.
And it's I sincerely hope that everybody that we've got to work with has enjoyed it and has gotten something out of it and enjoys the product that we get to make together. And I look forward to, I hope, many more years of doing exactly that, because boy, howdy, it's fun.
Goddamn. Well, I love you, brother. Devin Z Brooks, everybody, the fucking man.
Matt Waters, thank you so much. I love you, baby. Hey.
Peace, players.
Until next time.
The man, the myth, the legend, Devin Z Brooks. Make sure you check out Radio Artifact in Cincinnati, Ohio. Follow him on his personal pages. He is such a wonderful guy. Devin, thank you for coming on. Make sure you subscribe to their Patreon. That is a big part of supporting the space and continuing to push forward this dream that these two maniacs in Northside have put together. Devin and Andrew are such amazing guys. So check it out. Like and subscribe. Talk your shit. Send the love. Squeeze somebody that needs it. Peace.